Everybody, here's a more detailed outlook as far as our potential for severe weather as we get into Wednesday. First off, let's start with the latest outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. And for those of you watching after 1 o'clock today, this is going to be probably updated a bit, so make sure to check social media for the latest outlook. But this is as of this early morning, 8 o'clock, okay? We're in that enhanced zone, or level 3 out of 5. I think our third or fourth time this year we've been in this category. So, and we've been lucky, really, overall. We've only had a few tornadoes this season so far that have caused some damage, but nothing major, which is good. And let's hope that tomorrow is another one of those cases. But here is the breakdown, because the Storm Prediction Center, they at this point, for a day 2 outlook for tomorrow, they don't break it down in more specifics as far as tornado, large hail, and damaging winds. They do that just for the day of. So, but they can at least give you an idea of some of their thoughts as far as the potential by percentage overall for severe weather. And they do that by drawing out the map here for us. And it's given us about a 30% chance for severe weather. But they put the hatched area over us. And what that means is that the severe weather that takes place in this zone tomorrow could be significant. And that would be, in many cases, when it comes to even large hail, maybe some strong winds, up to 70 miles per hour in some cases, and perhaps even a tornado that could be a little higher than an EF1 kind of deal. So that's the reason why they have a hatched area for it. So it's something that we need to pay attention to, and it also gives a hint that they are leaning on the idea that we may have to see an upgrade come later, but there's some factors that are holding the forecasters back, and we'll talk about that. Let's show you our in-house model, first off, and how it sees things evolving. First off, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, we're in the 50s. As we head toward midday, we should see a partly sunny sky at this point. The warm front is already moving through a good portion of wave country by this point. It's going to become breezy outside, and temperatures warm quickly, 71. Then we get into the 80-degree range for the afternoon, and that's when we start to see these cells, because the low pressure is back here to the west. We start to see these cells blossom on the radar. Notice there's multiple ones that fire up here, and it's going to be a scattering of cells, and whether or not they can form into one line or not is still questionable. It looks like there could be more discrete cells based on the wind shear profiles that we're looking at. But these cells will initiate around 3 or 4 o'clock west of 65. Got to watch these. They will continue to evolve and track into the rest of wave country by the 4 or 5 o'clock period. And we have more developing to our west that we'll need to monitor, because the sun comes back out again and could allow for more development near the Wabash, while the first round of activity works its way towards Cincinnati as we head toward the afternoon rush. Then as we head into the 7 o'clock period, the last of these severe weather cells should be lining themselves up in our general vicinity along 65 here, and then it's just general showers by the time we head to about 11 o'clock at night or so. So with these cells, timing is a challenge. Now the high-res NAM, this is for 2 in the afternoon. It shows the hint of these cells begin to pop on the radar at 2 in the afternoon. Then as we head into the 5 o'clock period, it shows these cells, and these look like to be certainly some hailers, but these have the ability to produce an isolated tornado or 2 in that zone as well into Indiana. And then we got these cells. It's trying to form into a line, but not quite. It's more of a broken line of cells that are trying to merge together, and they likely will the more east they go, but I think they'll stay cellular for a while. And as long as they are cellular, the potential is there for them to rotate and produce large hail. They have their own environment to work with, and that's where we could run into problems. Now, when we look at the sounding, this is from the NAM for Louisville. I know it's kind of hard to read this. The shear is tremendous. I mean, there's a lot of shear with this, no doubt. In fact, some of the higher shear levels I've seen so far this season. But when you look at the wind component at the surface, what we're looking for is a southeast wind component. And with the warm front in the area, we could have a southeast wind very close to our area. You get a southeast wind, and then that southeast wind eventually has to turn as you go up in height to a more southwest and west wind. That is the directional shear. That causes the rotation of thunderstorms. So it's because of the low pressure where it's positioned and the warm front where it is. You combine that with instability, you've got the setup for severe weather. Question is, will we have the moisture? And you see hints of the problem here, because the green line is your moisture line. And notice at the ground level, there is a spread here, all right? It's not fully saturated at our level, so there is going to be a gap. How much of one is questionable, because the last time we ran into this, it really cut down on the severe potential substantially in our area. And that's a possibility. We got to see how we can get the moisture to advect into the area. because that leads to the instability. All right, so if we don't get the moisture, then you take out an important ingredient, and that's something that's going to be questionable as we head into the afternoon. When you look at the dew point potential of the Schreff model, the average of it is about 58, is the black line, but some of the models or ensembles of this model take us up to about 62, and some of them as low as about 52, and that's still enough of uncertainty of a range to add some caution to the forecast. When you look at the shear, 40 knots is usually what I look at as a benchmark for severe potential. We're way above that. 55 to 60 is what the average is. Some of the ensembles going higher than 70, which is an incredible amount of wind shear. I mean, you look at the wind shear alone in this setup, that is alarming. The wind shear alone, in fact, would argue for certainly a moderate risk for our area. But it's that lack of moisture that is affecting potentially into our area that is holding the Weather Service or the Storm Prediction Center back into more of an enhanced area for now. If we get the real-time data tomorrow to make that more of a real factor, that moisture can affect into here, it would not surprise me at all to see this be a moderate risk scenario. All right? It doesn't really matter either way. They just need to be prepared for severe weather, and let's hope for the best, but I just want to at least clarify that. When you look at the temperatures, again, potentially up to 80 or a little bit above. The average here is shown in mid-70s, and look at the drop that comes after that. We'll come back to that later. I did want to mention the analogs. I did run this. It was comparing, I believe it was April of 1998 to its outbreak. But as far as any severe weather out of this event, the analogs are saying that we have about a 70 to 80% chance of severe weather into wave country and nearly 100% for Georgia, where the moderate risk is. So the analogs seem to be lining up really well where the risk outlooks are. And when you look at the potential for a strong tornado that could develop, they're not off the chart here, but they do show values across wave country and certainly a little more into Georgia. So it's nothing to be ignored. And I think the shear value is a reason why that is the case. I think it's just, again, that dew point. It's a stubborn factor. Once this all wraps up, the potential is there for snow, of course, on the backside. This is going to be a wet snow, and the best times to see that wet snow will be in the times when the atmosphere is its coolest, which is going to be at nighttime. So when we have the cold air working its way in just before the sun comes up Thursday, there's a chance for some wet snow mixed in with the rain. Otherwise, we'll have to wait till Thursday night. And by that point, a lot of the moisture will be moving to the east. It's a wet snow. It can accumulate on grassy areas and rooftops briefly while it is coming down. But as soon as it stops, it's gone. It's melted. And no travel impacts from that. But it will be cold and chilly. We just got to monitor potential for maybe a freeze as we head into Saturday morning. That's going to be a problem. All right. That's it for now, guys. Stay tuned for updates because things will change.